Yes, friend. Now this thing, I was just surprised that how a daughter can think like this. That daughter is think, but they say that daughter is to be blamed. Father is not to be blamed. Why father is not to be blamed? Because father slept with his own daughters. So father is to be blamed. Why daughters are to be blamed? But they blame the daughters. They say that because the two daughters, both the daughters, they slept with their father and they had children from their father, and after that they inherited the property. Just to inherit the property, to take the property, their father's property in their own name, they must have the children from their father. This is, I couldn't imagine this kind of activity, but this is their culture. They like this culture because father can sleep with their daughter, fathers can sleep with their daughters or can have sex with their daughters. This kind of activity cannot be found in Indian culture or cannot be appreciated in Indian culture because Vedic culture is totally different. Here Lord Ram, he was stepson of Kekai, but after Kekai's statement he went to to the forest area. He was exiled because of his stepmother's statements. Because of his stepmother Kekai's statement, he went to forest area just to respect his own mother, his stepmother. Because of stepmother's statement, he went to forest area. Even then, he didn't insult his mother, his stepmother. Kekai was his stepmother, not his own real mother, But here, father is sleeping with his real daughters. How this can happen? This culture is being defined. So when I narrated this person's name, then he told me second person's name also. What is second person's activity? Now second person is sleeping with his or slept with his son's, with his own real son's wife. And the real son's wife, his daughter-in-law, is being blamed. They say the daughter-in-law thought about that because her her husband died, but she has to inherit her father-in-law's property. So father-in-law's property can be inherited by her only when she is having a son from his sperms, or he must have son from this lady. So this lady, the son's wife, she thought that I must have to inherit the property of my father-in-law, and for that I must have a child from his sperms, or he must have sex with me. And what she did? She went to the market and she sat there as a harlot. Harlot means prostitute. She took the form of a prostitute or a harlot. The word is harlot used there in the Bible. Harlot. Harlot means a prostitute. So she sat just like in the form of a prostitute or a harlot, and then her father-in-law was going to the market with a goat in his hand to sell the goat, or he was coming from the market after purchasing a goat. So this goat culture, shepherd culture, that kind of activities are being narrated in the Bible. So her father-in-law, he was going to the market or coming from the market, that I am not remembering, but the activity was, her father's activity was that he was having a goat in his hand, either purchasing the goat or was going to sell that goat in the market. So when he noticed that lady sitting there, she was attracted, or she was attracting him. Okay, he was attracted to that lady, and that person had a sex with that lady, and that lady was then pregnant and she delivered a child of somebody. Okay, then she inherited the property from that person. So this, second character and the first character. These two events I narrated to him, that these two kind of events cannot be found in Indian culture or Indian civilization. In Vedic it's just these kind of events cannot be found. Now then I narrated one story of Indian culture. I told him that let me tell you one character from Indian culture. There was of Mahabharata, I just narrated one story of Bhishma. Okay, Bhishma, it is said that Bhishma was, as you know about from Mahabharata, if you go through, then Bhishma was the step brother of the two brothers, Satyavati's, the two sons, because his father Santanu, he married with Satyavati. That lady was his stepmother, Bhishma's stepmother. But this stepmother, was taught by him, was, because he was going to her her what you call palace to teach her to narrate the stories from Vedas, from other scriptures, and at night time. So when Bhishma was going to narrate the stories from Vedas, from scriptures, from Puranas, okay, all those things he was narrated to Satyavati, his stepmother. So his stepmother was told these stories from Vedas by Bhishma at night time. So whenever at night time, at sunset time, he was going to her palace and he was narrating all these or reading those scriptures before her. She was sitting there and was listening to all these, okay, Vedas and all those things from Bhishma. But Bhishma's these activities were, took in a negative way by Satyavati's eldest son. Satyavati was having two sons, Chitrangad and Vichitravirya. Vichitravirya was father of Dhritarashtra and Pandu, and that was inheritor of, what you call the forefather of Pandavas and others. But Chitrangada, the eldest one, the elder brother of Vichitravirya and Chitrangada. Chitrangada was the eldest son of Satyavati. So that eldest son, Chitrangada, he thought that this Bhishma, he is my step-brother, elder brother or step-brother, because he was from Gangas, okay. Bhishma's mother was Ganga, okay, goddess Ganga or whosoever. So Bhishma promised that he will not marry in his life. He was unmarried, he will remain brahmachari or bachelor, okay, throughout his life. But this activity, this character of Bhishma was took in a different way by his step-brother Chitrangada. So Chitrangada was, thinking something else. He was thinking that maybe this step-brother and my mother, my real mother or my own mother, may have some sexual relations or something, some different relations. So he just, he had hidden himself in the palace before Bhishma was, coming, or Bhishma came to that palace to narrate the stories from Mahabharata, okay, or sorry, from Vedas. So to read the Vedas before Satyavati, Bhishma came there, and that brother of his, step-brother of his, Chitrangad, he was hiding inside the palace just to see the activity of Bhishma, that what Bhishma does here, because he was not present in those lessons of him. So he was hiding inside the palace. He was watching that what Bhishma is doing here. When Bhishma came there, and he started narrating the Vedas or reading the Vedas before Satyavati. Satyavati was sitting on the palunkin or on the cot. Palunkin means palank. She was sitting on the palunkin, and after some time she slept. Because she was tired, so she slept on the palunkin, but her leg was just, was just, not hanging, we may say, just was, lying just away from the palunkin, or just, was just, lying or, below the palunkin, okay, or was hanging upon the palunkin. And Bhishma noticed that after when there was no any activities from Satyavati's side, she was not saying something, not saying yes, no, anything. There was no any activity from Satyavati's side, from his stepmother's side. Then Bhishma noticed that, okay, my mother has, or that stepmother of his has slept. But he noticed that her leg was just hanging below the palunkin, below the cot. So then he took that leg of her with his head. He put that leg on his head and put that leg on the palunkin. And after collecting those Vedas, or taking those Vedas in the bag, and he went away. Now this activity of Bhishma was noticed by his stepbrother Chitrangada. Chitrangada was very ashamed, because he thought something else. But his brother is just like a god, just like a very Brahmarshi type. He is the true bachelor. He was a true bachelor. He proved true bachelor, or true unmarried person, or true son. Okay, so he was a really true son. So Chitrangada was very much surprised, very much ashamed of his activity, because he thought something else. This was known as Mansik Pap, or a a sin committed by him mentally. Mental sin he committed. So just liberate himself from this mental sin. He went to the Brahmins or to the Pandit or to the priest of a temple. He asked him that, please tell me that suppose a person has committed a mental sin, what he has to do? Then that Pandit or that Pujari or that priest of the temple told him that that person, whosoever has committed his mental sin or mansik pap, if he has committed, that the remorse he has to do, then he has to do the prashchit or the remorse by hanging himself upon a dry tree, and then the dry tree is to be burnt, is to be fired up, and in that fire or that smoke, that person has to die. Only then he will be liberated from his sin, this mental sin. If that person has killed himself like this, by smoke, by fire, by hanging himself on the tree, on the top of the tree and burning that tree, and after that, in that fire and that smoke, he has to die. After that, his liberation will be possible, or that person's mental sin will be liberated, or that person will be liberated from his, will be removed from his mental sin. तब उसका मानसिक पाप complete खत्म हो जाएगा. If that person can die in this way. After that, it is said that Chitrangad went to the forest area. He just hanged himself on the top of the tree, a neem tree or something, dry tree, and was already fired up in the what you call, in the root side of that, below the tree. He fired that up, and in that fire or that smoke he died. And this is how this event I narrated before that maternal grandfather of that boy, that student of mine. And that person just noticed that this is the one event which I narrated before that person, that this is the difference between Western culture and Indian culture. Now Indian culture, even stepmothers, stepsons, they have their rights, they have their duties towards their parents, their stepmothers or stepfathers. They have to respect them just like their real fathers or their real mothers. So Bhishma treated Satyavati as his real mother, just like God is his Ganga. So this story, when I narrated before that maternal grandfather of my student of 12th standard, I was teaching him mathematics and English also. I was teaching him English, mathematics, and physics also. I was teaching those students. So physics, mathematics, and English, I was taking the classes of those students. So this is one of my students. He gave me that Bible, and first I read that Bible, and after reading that Bible, I returned that to his grandfather, maternal grandfather. And that maternal grandfather, I just compared these two events, that this is Indian culture, where even step-son is respecting his stepmother just like his own real mother, because he took that leg of his mother, his stepmother, through his head, put her leg on her head, on his head, and put that leg on the palanquin, on the cot. And after that, taking his Vedas or Puranas, whatever he was reading before Satyavati, he took those and went away. This activity, which is being compared to those people who are sleeping with their own children, own daughters, and their daughters are being blamed. Because daughters thought about, my goodness, if daughter is sleeping with her father, or when daughters are sleeping with their father, and father is having sex with them, how daughters can be blamed when father is having sex? But in their culture, ladies are being demonized, they are being blamed, because daughter was having, had sex with their father, so because of that, those daughters were to be blamed. Father is not to be blamed. But in Indian culture, women are being respected. Women cannot be blamed because they are being respected. Parents can be blamed, father can be blamed, or men can be blamed. Men are to be blamed. They are sinners. Not ladies are sinners, because ladies are being protected by the males, by the men. But in their culture, female are being demonized. They are being blamed. So those two daughters, daughter-in-law who had sex with her father-in-law, and father-in-law is not blamed there, but daughter-in-law is being blamed. Daughter-in-law had sex with her father-in-law, because to inherit the property of her, the reason is given that she had to inherit the property of her father-in-law because she was not having any son from her own husband because husband died, and I think husband died or went away. But that lady, I mean, that lady is blamed. That daughter-in-law, she converted herself into a harlot. She went there in the market and sat there, and she attracted her father-in-law when he was going to the market to sell the goat or purchase the goat, coming from the market or going to the market, or selling that goat, right? Goat in his hand. He was going away there, and then she was making some attracting activities, so that father-in-law of her attracted to her, that lady, and she was under the what you call curtain or something. I don't know how father-in-law couldn't recognize that lady, for she was his daughter-in-law. I can't understand this. And when father slept with his own daughters, how father could not recognize those two daughters of his? How he could sleep? But this is given there. So this is the difference of the two cultures, Indian culture and those Western culture. So Indian civilization is having respect for the women. Parents, or I mean the males are to be, or men are to be blamed, not the women, because women have not committed that and any kind of religion, because the male is having that activity. Male is sleeping with his own children, with his own daughters, I mean. So father is to be blamed. Why daughters are to be blamed? But their daughters are blamed. This is how these two